Hey.
We've been talking about, actually, the main topic of conversation has been Riot, I have to say. We divide up the time we've just spent. Riot got the lion's share of the conversation, perhaps rightly so. Cheers, everyone. Friday night, what are you listening to? Hell is here. Celebrated summer. Hell is here. Pick a name, any name.
Celebrated hell.
Celebrated hell. Nice. Like it.
I like it too.
Yeah. Hell is celebrated. Hell is summer.
Actually, I think we really would just go with celebrated summer. How about that?
I like it.
The winner.
All right. Let me do the old the keeping of the housekeeping, the liking, the subscribing. Where is it? There it is. There we go. By all means, feel free to like and or subscribe. The choice is yours. Peace or annihilation.
Or subscription.
Morning, lads. Morning, Pete. Are we ready? We get going? But before we get going, we probably want to talk a little bit about something, right, that happened this week. I don't usually do this, but this week, before we show our 5 records each that we've got ready to talk about, Paul Di'Anno passed away this week, age 66. I used to sort of say that he was Iron Maiden. 1981, February 1981, Killers tour, Taunton, like in Somerset, was like the first gig I ever went to, but it was actually Mud, the glam rock band. So depending on like who my audience is, I switch them up. It's like, Mud was but Iron Maiden was the first like real one. Like it was so important to me as a 13-year-old boy, and I just thought, I don't know if anyone's got an Iron Maiden Paul Di'Anno record to show or to point at or anything you want to say. There you go. That's I think
oh, there's another one.
That's nice. That's like a German twat. I don't think we'd be wrong to say that Killers is the best Iron Maiden record. Would anyone disagree with that?
It's hard to.
It's hard to.
Not on this panel.
Not on this show.
I did not
For the next 2 hours.
I'm not old enough to have seen Paul Di'Anno play. I saw Iron Maiden for the first time in Baltimore in 1986 on the Somewhere in Time tour with Inve Malmsteen opening. So,
man, this is the thing.
Wow.
See, once we start talking about Iron Maiden, I can't shut up. So it's like, I just went to see him right on the current tour, and they do. Yep. It's like that kind of Senjutsu Somewhere in Time mashup tour. So yeah, a lot of songs from Somewhere in Time, but they're so good. Those songs are so good live. They really are. I'm going to show this one because the reason being, it's such a great picture of Paul Di'Anno.
That artwork is incredible. That photo is. It's
the Marquee Club in London, like 1980, in front of like 300 people, maybe 500. I don't know the capacity, but just this is what Iron Maiden was all about. Even when I saw them, it was like small clubs. This kind of photo really sums up what Paul Di'Anno was about like perfectly. So
that's incredible. And was the show was good, Mike, when you saw them?
Yes, of course. It was okay. I was just stood there like obviously they only had like the 2 albums out at the time, so they pretty much played like the whole.
I mean, the recent one. I know that one was insane.
You mean the recent gig? Yes, it was
okay.
Very, very good. In fact,
I just bought tickets for that tour today, and they're playing at the exact same venue that I saw them in 1986 on the Somewhere in Time tour, doing the half Somewhere in Time.
Wow.
So I was like, well, I have to be there. I can't not be there. 1986 to 2024.
I mean, I was really skeptical to the point where I was like, I don't want to go to this, because you see the set list and it's like, I actually do like. Go and check out the podcast about Iron Maiden. We've talked about Iron Maiden a lot, but it's like. I was like, I don't know if I can. I want to go to this, but it's like Otto and Joanna were like, you got to go. It's amazing. And so I was like, okay, and it was. I mean, they're not the Iron Maiden they were in 1982, but I think they're playing to their strengths by doing these like big, powerful, epic, long songs. I think it works live. On record, maybe not so much, but live, really powerful. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah, I saw them Amanda and I went and saw them last year too, playing a good amount. They kind of front loaded some new songs, like you had to get through like 5 new songs or whatever, and then a lot of classics. And I was just like, why don't I go see them every time they come through? What's wrong with me?
I had exactly the same thought. I said to Otto, I was like, man, I've waited since like 1982 to see them again. I was like, all those like times I didn't go and see them, feel like I wasted my life, wasted years.
I never saw them again. 86.
No. Like, last time I saw it was like Number of the Beast, but Bruce Dickinson had just joined. Huge gap 2 months ago. Then I saw them again, so that's a big gap. Anyway, let's move on. People are going to get bored of our Iron Maiden talk. So last time Jesse was, I think it was the last time Jesse was on. Naughty Nights. Was that the last time? Naughty Nights.
Maybe the first time.
Maybe the first time, but that band name has stuck with me.
Yeah.
So let's get a little bit medieval for my first pick. The new Medieval out of Philadelphia, Philly. This band has a new record out. I think it's their best record actually so far. I like this band a lot, and I'm kind of going to get into some details about some stuff about this band later. But anyway, it's Poison Ruin. It's their new record. I think they're amazing. There's a lot of things I want to say about, like, not necessarily the music on this record, about like the label they're on, and they just get reviewed in places that, like, because they're on Relapse, they just get talked about in places that a band that ordinarily sounds like this band would not be. And so there's all this like imaginary, like, people like are hearing things that I'm not hearing. Like, I'm talking about like the heavy metal like press or blogs, or they're like reading all this stuff into it. It's on Relapse. I don't hear like, I mean, it's like, oh, it's like second wave, like black metal, blah blah blah. Like, personally, I don't hear any of that at all. It's just interesting to me how important or how much of an impact a record label or whatever, or a band name or things like that can have an effect on the way people like hear the music. Because to me, this sounds like that like old wave of sort of Portland post-punk and death rock that was like in the mid-2000s. Like, that's the vibe that I kind of get from this band, like, more than anything. Not like second wave, like black metal or anything.
Like French punk too. I hear that a lot in that. It's very strong.
I thought it sounded like The Observer the first time I heard it. Speaking of, probably the exact band you're thinking of. Like, I really caught an Observer's, vibe off of
right.
Or any of the Observer's bands, that followed.
And it's like the medieval imagery and all this kind of stuff, and the record label. I think people are just like reading like too much into it. To me,
mass hysteria.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I was thinking about like the slower, like Born Dead Icons songs as well, and by default, Complications, and by default again, Estranged, and then ultimately the Wipers. I mean, there's Wipers in this band too, and it's so interesting to me how a band that does sound like the Wipers or Estranged or Observers or end up being covered in the heavy metal press, and all these things are being written about them that don't make any sense to me. But I'm just a guy. I think for me it would be better if this wasn't on Relapse. That's just my personal opinion. But
weird label to be on.
For me, I think it is. But hey, I'm not in the band, and it's their choice. But
that is
I'm
weird
sure
to think
it helps them. Oh, sorry, Jesse. Yep.
I was just going to say inheriting like an entire fan base just because you switch labels or something, like our next record's on like La Vida. Now everybody who wears this loves us or something.
It's like when the Rockin' of Sweden Boris thing came out. I was like, who are Rockin' of Sweden? It's like, of course, everybody knew Boris, but that's good for them maybe. But I think in some cases it's like, maybe it is good for this band. It is getting them like a lot of exposure and this, that, and the other. But yeah, I know.
I think that the people that sign at Relapse have an interest in non-heavy metal music, and they want to pull some bands like this,
Right.
you know, to kind of like have some variety in their thing. But then, yeah, when you have like such a, maybe the press or the reviewers are a little more narrow than even the label, yeah, they're not going to have that frame of reference to talk about.
It is interesting, you know, because it's like, that's their frame of reference, right? Well, this does remind me a little bit of some sort of rawly produced, like, you know, black metal. Maybe that's what they do here when they hear this, but to people like us, to me, it doesn't sound like that at all. It sounds like Born Dead Icons, yeah, like, or like as Rachel was saying, even like Leatherface, you know, or just kind of melodic punk with like medieval lyrics, you know. It's like, anyway,
Now,
good
I should
record.
check
Yeah, they kind of flew over my
Good record.
over or under my radar because the label they were on and stuff, and we actually played a show the other night, and they were playing at a larger venue, like right across the street, the same night. Where pretty
So we
much
can
most
hear them
people
when the
were.
door was open, but that's about it.
And I hadn't even really listened to them yet, and I was like, yeah, I've been meaning to check them out, and they've got a couple albums out, and I mean, I really liked it too, but I was like, oh yeah, this sounds like a French punk band.
It definitely has that Oi Division, like Wipers, all that stuff in here, and yet it's sort of been pitched as sort of like a different thing. But you know, it's
kind of cool.
record.
Ultimately, I guess that other people are hearing them that probably wouldn't.
But there's upsides to it too. You know, I'm just got a bit sort of fascinated with like how people hear music based on like label, cover art, and other things that are are not the music. You know, it's very interesting to me. Great record, check it out. Poison Ruin, great band. There you go. That's mine. And the hype sticker is a Pitchfork quote too, so you got that as well. Yes, Oi Division is like Oi Division is sort of like post punk with sort of Oi influences. A lot of French Oi Division around at the moment. All right, Dennis, what's your first pick?
All right, I don't know.
How could you follow that up?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, kind of along the lines of Iron Maiden a little bit. This came out earlier this year, and they released some tracks a little before that, and I just loved the first track that came out on it. This is the newer Priest album. And I apologize, I forgot to look at the list, so I don't know if somebody talked about this.
No, don't worry, nobody's.
I imagine not. Yeah, figured it was safe, but
very good things about it. I haven't checked it out yet, but I've heard nothing but good stuff. So
it's pretty good. Like, especially, man, you gotta hear. I think I forced Jesse and Matt Barr to listen to the song "Panic Attack" one time in the car.
It wasn't that bad. I mean, it's like what I'd expect from modern priests. You know?
I mean, I'll go a step further. Fuck, man, I think the song just fucking rules, and it's just like, I mean, it's got some issues. It sounds like it was recorded on a computer, like all the other metal albums, and it's plugged in. It's using this certain guitar plug-in, this certain drum plug-in. But I mean, if you can get past that, it's really good. It's got a lot of good songs on it, and that dude Richie Faulkner, I think, probably wrote a lot of it. There's like that kind of thing with KK Downing, who was like, "Oh, I don't want to write new albums anymore," and then he got kind of like booted, and now he's like regretting it, kind of. But I think it's pretty good. I'm enjoying it. Not top tier, but like some of the songs are really fucking good, and you just like think about Metallica, and I mean, they could never fucking write a song half as good as some of the shit on this at this point. Really, I mean, there's just some legitimate bangers on this.
I thought the last record was pretty decent too at first, like the one with just got this like pixelated JPEG of some flames on it. That Firepower, that was the one from a couple of years ago, right? That one's kind of similar, right?
Yeah, I think so. I didn't really give that one much of a chance. I just randomly heard Panic Attack from this, and I was like, holy fuck, that rules. And then it sucked me in, I guess.
they're definitely sort of doing the exact opposite of Iron Maiden. It's like, wow, we're just gonna keep maybe even like play harder and faster than we did back in like but it's probably because of like Richie. They get like younger guys in, right? Which Iron Maiden.
Yeah, it's a modern metal album, know, and it's heavy metal. It's not a rock and roll album. You know, they're not doing any weird shit, following any weird trends or anything. They're just, it's Judas Priest. It's killer.
They're coming here in December and they're playing in very like weird, like rural places. They're playing in Okayama, Jesse.
That's cool.
It's cool, right? They're doing like Yokohama, not even Tokyo, like maybe like, and then like not Osaka but Amagasaki. And then Okayama. It's quite funny to see like playing these sort of like, you know. But I guess there's like these kind of places have the arenas now, right? As opposed to the sort of right in the big cities. It makes sense. It makes sense. Right? So yeah. Nice. It's it's good that these bands are still going. It kind of warms the cockles, to know that.
Yeah.
I mean, they're making an effort. Like, they're putting out good shit. They're not. I mean, some of them are just like barely hanging on and existing and just putting garbage out. But like, there's some legit stuff coming out from some of those bands.
Yeah. That Panic Attack song is really good. It is. It's really good.
With you guys talking about seeing like Maiden, for the first time in 20 years kind of thing. I still haven't gotten to see Judas Priest, so that's something too. Like if it comes to the States, I will buy a ticket this time because who knows how many more chances we get.
I think they're better now than when I've seen them like twice in Japan, and they were better like the second time than they were the first time. I think at the time like, Rob Halford had some like back problems and he had like surgery and he's much more sprightly than he was like 10 years ago. Actually, it's funny. So they were better like more recently than they were like. So I think definitely should go and see him. I would say
I need to go too. I haven't seen him since what was that? 1991 or something. I think it was like Megadeth, Testament, Painkiller tour. That's when I saw them. So I need to refresh as well.
Wow.
I saw them one time in Baltimore at that same place that Maiden played on the Turbo tour with Crocus opening. So it was Judas Priest and Crocus in '86, and
AC/DC could have been.
And I saw AC/DC was my first concert ever, but and that was on the Fly on the Wall tour. But that was on the Fly on the Wall tour. But this Judas Priest show was Turbo. And I mean, I wasn't like, I just loved it. I didn't, I just liked all of it. I didn't have like a strong opinion like Turbo sucks, which is like a very popular opinion.
But it's been like reappraised recently because people have realized that those songs are actually quite good. It's just like the 80s production that kind of.
I thought they were, I really liked the songs and it was a good show. And then Jesse, I did see them like 7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. They played at this place called Pier 6 in Baltimore, and that was the first time from '86 to like whatever 6 or 7 years ago, and they were pretty awesome. They were having some sound issues, like the venue was having some kind of shitty sound issues, so the first couple of songs were kind of fucked up, but from then on I thought the band was playing really well, and it was a good set. It was definitely worth it was for sure worth going to. So
right on.
All right, Tony, what's your first pick?
All right. So before we were broadcasting, I was talking about how I never pick anything new. There's never any. I never have any new releases that I'm showing. And in this case, this is still the case. This is like a release that will be for the future. I thought about this record the other day because my Facebook feed was showing me that there is a discography coming out from this band. So that caused me to go. I didn't think anybody cared. And then I kind of dug into my record collection and I wanted to re-listen to these records by, let's see what we got here. Glare here. Jail Cell Recipes.
Oh, that's a fantastic pick. And you'll find out why soon. Great.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I think First Strike has reactivated as a label.
Oh, wow.
They're doing either, I guess, a double LP because there's 2 records. I have the other one over here too. I guess it's a double LP discography. I just saw it coming up in my feed and I was like, oh yeah, that's wild that in 2024 Jail Cell Recipes are going to get a reissue. But Yeah, I've always really liked this band because they sit at a weird, like, center point of many genres, or many subjects that I find interesting, which is
Yes.
like straight edge. Even though I don't think they were a straight edge band, but they're on First Strike.
They
who
were
put
sort
out-
of straight edge, sort of Liverpool style.
Okay. Well, I think about it mostly because,
Or
like,
Wigan.
just because, you know, First Strike put out Chain of Strength,
Yeah.
you know, and so then there's that little weird connection. And then this particular record is really fast, kind of like Ripcord and Stupids and Heresy kind of style. So that's that second point that I love a lot. And then the third record, they got Carl Alvarez from All and Descendants to do the artwork. And then there's like that influence, Descendants kind of All influence on the second record. So that's like all the, you know, kind of points into one thing. So I've always had a soft spot for them. And yeah, I always wondered if, like, beyond a very niche kind of audience, if they had any kind of love really out in the world. But the records are both great. Yeah, this one, Energy in an Empty Tank World.
Yeah.
And then the second one is called like 2 Years of Toothache, and that's like the kind of all kind of drawing on the front. It's a little more melodic, or a little more, you know, there's like weirder kind of like discordant parts kind of mixed in, and it's not as fast as the first record, but it's still, you know, pretty raging hardcore. So
Yeah, I saw them a couple of times. It's like one of those bands. Yeah, you know, these guys are definitely sort of more American hardcore influenced.
Sure.
But isn't there like an electro hippies like connection with that band?
they thank them, which is, again, that's the thing. It's like, I suspect that maybe they played together, because they, in the thanks list, they talk about Doctor and the Crippins, who also I have a soft spot for, and electro hippies, who I also love. So, but it's like all those things happening. But at the same time, if you watch, there's footage of Green Day playing a European tour in like 1991, and they're playing in front of a huge Jail Cell Recipes banner. That so I suspect, yeah, I guess Jail Cell Recipes opened that.
I think they might have supported him on some of the dates on that first sort of UK.
Okay, yeah. So,
that's nice. I love that era of the UK so much, as you know. So
all my favorite things, and sometimes the weirder ones, like Doctor and the Crippins and like stuff like that, are just, it's fascinating. I just think about it and I go, how did that band come about? How did they exist? I mean, Jail Cell Recipes makes sense. They're basically a hardcore band that just has a little bit of different influences here and there.
Right.
Something like Doctor and the Crippins, you're just like, fuck, man, how many albums? You know, like, I love it, but like, you know, it's just strange, and that scene and the way that it all bleeds together.
Yeah, it's like you would see, like, you know, senseless things playing with bolt thrower and all that kind of stuff, you know. Yeah.
And that world where, like, it's like kind of like the tail end of the Mega City 4 scene and the beginning of Britpop, and like, but the beginning of the Mega City 4 scene is also like maybe the tail end of the Ripcord Stupids scene, and it's like it all kind of blurs over. That's my favorite stuff. So I was excited to see that the discography is coming out, and yeah, it made me dig out all those records. So
that's actually quite exciting news, actually. Is it? That's going to be next year, though, right? Probably at this point.
You know, I'm not sure. I saw it, and then I immediately just kind of pulled out the records, and then I didn't do I didn't order it yet or check out any of the details. But I'm going to order a copy of it, even though I think I have all the songs, the 2 LPs, 7-inch, and
there's some comp tracks too, right? I think. Yeah, nice, beautiful, love it. Jail Cell Recipes. All right, Jesse, what's your first pick?
Yeah, so I think for the first one, I think I'm going to stick with the metal thing you guys are kind of going with here, Tony.
All right.
And like live shows and stuff like that. So one of my picks, it's pretty new, like maybe 3 or 4 months old at this point. And like, it's a band that's done a lot of different stuff in one genre. So like, you know, it's a doom band. They've explored the Charles Manson side of things. They've explored like the serial killer side of things, the futuristic wasteland side of things. And yeah, the new album explores.
Yeah.
Nice, man. I'm happy
Italian
that I've been
jolly.
waiting to hear like what people think about this record. So yeah.
Yeah. So like, I mean, I'm a big fan of the band. Have been, I don't know, however long it's been or whatever. Actually, first time I saw them was with Iron Maiden in Prague.
There you go.
The only time I've seen Iron Maiden, so there's that connection too.
Wow. There you go.
Double LP that is like based around a, as far as we know, imaginary movie about
It's like
a
Giallo.
politician. Yeah, like Italian 70s, police movie / jolly type stuff soundtrack. So like you listen to it and there's dialogue by actual like actors. Franco Nero, who was he was Django, like he's in there. Edward French, I think. So there's a lot of well-known people that they got to do voices. It sounds like a real movie, a real soundtrack. But like the actual Uncle Acid part. So like you're not going to hear stuff that sounds like Mind Control. There's maybe one or two like nice heavy doom tracks, but it's also showing like, oh, they can do more atmospheric, like synth type stuff, like Goblin or like older Italian bands or like Fabio Frizzi. They can do, just strumming acoustic guitar and stuff like that too. So recently, like they announced they're doing a tour for this in the UK and in the US, all seated. And like, are they going to show a movie? It would be a really cool thing. So I got my tickets. I hope it's going to be cool. Like this album, I mean, I think if you're going to the grocery store, I wouldn't put it on. If you have like 2 hours to drink some beers that you got from the grocery store and read through like the translation of the script of the movie as you listen to it, it's a really cool listen. So I really like it in that sense. It's not my favorite album of theirs by far, but like I got to give them a lot of respect to like go out on a limb, do something like this. Like in the 70s, it might have been a lot easier if they're like a, label supported band, right? But now, I mean, they're on Rise Above. I think they probably have a big enough fan base that they can take a chance on doing something like this. And I wonder how many people, bought it and how many people are like, fuck this is horrible. So
you said exactly what I was going to say. It's like, it does remind you of the 70s where bands would just kind of do whatever the hell they wanted.
The concept album, right?
Yeah. And, okay, we're not going to do what we did on the last album. We're just going to do something completely different. And and fans would sort of go along with it and be like, this is great. We kind of appreciate that they're not sort of doing the last album, over and over again. But it is a bold move because for me, like those sort of Beatles meets Black Sabbath, like it's that's for me, that's what makes the band. So it is a very bold move. I'm still on the fence about it, but I respect the fact that they did that so much. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, there's still a couple of like, the classic Uncle Acid type things. But again, it's like, I don't know. It's definitely exploring new genres and stuff.
Yeah. Fair play to him. I mean, you gotta respect it. It's
I mean, I think it's really mainly just the main singer, guitarist, songwriter guy, Kevin Stars. He just comes up with all this shit somehow. And they said that, this was recorded throughout COVID. So they were all in different places and he just kind of thought it up and then everybody went with it and they put it together. So it's pretty wild shit.
It is pretty wild. I think it's not for everybody, but I do think it. I think it's exciting, even though you might not necessarily like it as much as the other records. I think it's an exciting thing to do.
I kind of would like to see that live. I didn't know that they were doing a U.S. tour. I saw them open for King Diamond like 6 years ago, like before COVID, but not very far before COVID, and that was pretty amazing. But I would be curious to see this like live. So maybe I'll have to keep an eye out if they're going to play in the area, try to see them.
Yeah. I mean, their other live gigs, they usually have like projection behind them and stuff. So it doesn't seem like it's, too much of a thought, but also how did they film, like an hour-long movie with established Italian actors and stuff like that. So who knows?
I mean, like Diego was saying, I mean, if you've never heard this band, this is probably, I mean, he has heard them, but if you haven't heard the last record, it's not like that at all, right? It's so different.
Listen to it online first.
Yeah.
I mean, I assume that they probably saw, like, I saw one of the Goblin tours where they played with Suspiria and the various things in the background. And
Yeah.
John Carpenter, we saw John Carpenter tour like that too, with his films playing behind him and him playing the, the scores for them. So I assume Uncle Acid just saw that and was like, well, if they can do that, why can't we?
They got to make a movie though. Those movies are already out, right? Like, there's a movie studio made those.
Yeah,
Like,
that's interesting.
I mean, yeah, I just saw was it Fritzy doing the soundtrack to Zombie, and yeah, it was fucking great. And then they play tracks after the movie, right? And listening to them, like, this sounds like, I mean, like progressive death metal, like basically what they're doing. So it all just comes around, But
I wonder, do you think that they did in fact try to record some kind of a movie, or do you think that they just like took, maybe some like copyright loose original Italian crime things and kind of wove them together as a backdrop?
Time will tell.
We don't know.
Yeah. I'll let you know in February. Yeah.
He's been quite secretive. He's let out some details. It would not surprise me if Kevin Stars put that together. It would not surprise me at all.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to come clean here. I had that on pre-order, and I listened to too much of it just on YouTube, and then I cancelled my order. But I'm kind of regretting it now because.
Hey, there's a lot of long mornings and long nights,
It's still in print.
Oh, yeah.
Too late.
I mean, like all of them, I'm sure there's like a million different versions.
Yeah. So. That's a great pick. It kind of reminded me. And it's a very exciting record, to me, even though it's not for everybody. Nice. Matt, that also, remember, like, we were going to go and see Unclassic just as COVID hit Japan? I went, actually.
Yeah, I was told I should not go, and followed my advice.
They were on their way back home.
They played 2 shows, right?
Yeah, and then they played in Osaka. Man, there was nobody there, man. They were still amazing, but
that was like February 2020. Yeah,
nice, exactly. February 2020.
Right before March. Yeah. Good memories. Okay, Mike, your turn.
Yes, it's my turn. Actually, we've already talked about most of the bands I was going to reference in my build up to my next pick, which is great. That's fine. We're going back to the mid '80s UK, but I feel like this band like never gets mentioned when talking about this era. Like Tony was like saying, there's like you got Ripcord and Heresy, and then you got the super melodic stuff, and then there's like this sort of like in between stuff as well. Like this band sort of is like one of those sort of in between bands. But I saw them a couple of times, and then a couple of times more when they changed their name. Basically the same band, but they changed their name and kind of changed their sound a little bit. But nobody talks about this band. They were on Children of the Revolution Records, which is one of the labels of the time. People talk about other bands, maybe rightly so. I don't know, But anyway, I just rebought this record because I sold it when I moved to Japan in like 19 whenever that was. I just rebought it, so I'm so happy to have it back in the collection. Any guesses? I actually posted a track on this record on.
I can lay a bunch of guesses out.
It's a lot of bands to choose from.
You said Children of the Revolution. I'm like already in.
British band, Leamington Spa. There's a good hint. Their hometown is Leamington Spa, hometown of the Verucas. Did you know? Depraved.
Oh. Yeah. Yep. That record
Stupidity, Maketh the Man. Lost classic, in my opinion. It's like, it really is like, it's like halfway between, there's some UK 82 still in this band too. Absolutely. In fact, I remember reading an interview with them saying that they changed their name because they kept being sort of lumped in with, all the UK 82 stuff, and they were sort of more intelligent than that. They'd sort of moved on. And so they changed their name to Visions of Change right after. Visions of Change, which is like completely. We're talking about Tony core. Visions of Change is like 100% like Tony Pence core.
Well, I have that Depraved record.
Okay,
and that's back there. And then I might have another record by them.
This is their second album. They have the one before this called "Come On Down," which is even more like it sounds like the Partisans almost.
Yeah, I think I have that one too. But I did not know that they changed their name. And
Visions of Change.
So I don't have any of that stuff.
there's like three elements that sort of make up this band. It's like the UK 82 stuff, sort of melodic US hardcore, and then some like 60s psychedelic pop, which like is in here, but it came fully out when they changed to like Visions of Change. So they had like the organ and like more poppy, but this is still like mostly sort of hardcore, like super catchy, melodic. I saw them and they were one of those bands. Okay, so you'd go and see like Ripcord and Heresy and like good hardcore. This is like these are great hardcore bands, very exciting. But then you go and see a band like this. It's like, man, this is sort of a big band. Like the singer's like he's quite a good singer. It's like this, like Scream or something, right? Like or Government Issue. It's like, man, this is a really like good band. They can play, and it's not just like basic hardcore. There's a like, that's what I thought when I was like, in like 87, 88. Like, man, this is like a good band, but sort of completely forgotten, I always say. Or not even known at all. I don't know.
I definitely have that record. On a long enough timeline, I would have probably eventually picked it for one of these. So yeah, it's a cool fucking record.
It's amazing. But okay, so there is a double discography CD on Boss Tunage of all the Depraved stuff and all the Visions of Change stuff. That's out there, so you can get everything like on a double.
Boss Tunage doing the Lord's work with their.
But Visions of Change is like just like putting the UK 82 completely out, and it's like lots of organ and like 60s psychedelia and very poppy. You would love it if you haven't heard Visions of Change.
I'm gonna try to find that second band. I never knew they did anything.
Oh wow!
So,
yeah.
And I like that record quite a bit. So
I was gonna say there's like one tiny quibble I have about this record. It's like there's some like really jarring mood swings on this record. So it's like there's a song like called Agent Orange, which does sound a bit like kind of Discharge meets like US hardcore. Then you have that, and then 2 songs later, they're doing a cover of like Lulu's Shout, and so, which is they do it really, really well, but it's like it's a little bit jarring, It's such a mood swing. But back then, anything, it's like different times. It's just like we can do whatever we want. But live, it was amazing because they could. But like on the record, it's like, ooh, that's very different to like what the last song or another song before it. But great record, just one of the great records from like '86. Daniel's a fan. There you go. Come On Down is like the one before, which is like more straight ahead, sort of Partisans style, ripping hardcore. There you go. That's my second. I'm trying to sort of see what's going on in the chat. Yes. Come On Down. Yeah, maybe Come On Down is the best one. I don't know. Yeah, there you go. The first one. All right, Dennis.
All right, well, I'm going to stick with the UK theme a little bit.
Nice.
Except this is a US band doing that style. Not that style, but a style from the UK, kind of crass record style stuff. I could probably count on one hand the amount of like US bands that have done it well, I think. But this is kind of like Penis Envy maybe, but this band okay. Yeah, these came out in 2009, so not that long ago, I guess. But I've listened to these pretty much continually since I got them. They're just I don't know, something about them that just really well done, I think, and just really catchy and really powerful. Just great lyrics. They kind of do that style where it's like there's just singing. The vocals are going the whole freaking time, pretty much, but that's just so well done. Apparently they had other stuff recorded. I remember Colin Tapp teasing us with that. They never released it. I don't know why. I think it was an album, but yeah, I like these 2 records a lot. Yeah, I don't
Was
know.
Colin Tapp in that band, Dennis?
I don't know. He released them.
Okay.
They're on his label. I think wasn't that his label? Life's a Rape.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't think he was in the band. I think they were from the middle of America somewhere. But I don't know a lot about this band at all, really. I just really like these records, but I don't know if they went on to do anything else, where they came from. It's kind of a mystery to me.
I always saw him in the used bin at Punk and Destroy, but I was like, okay. I don't know. It just wasn't an interest at the time. And
you're reading my mind. I was about to mention Punk and Destroy. I remember, like, you would see that in Punk and Destroy, and I think Kazu at Punk and Destroy was quite excited about that band. And I think people who are into sort of anarcho-punk in the Crass era style were kind of excited about that band at the time.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, it's pretty iffy. I mean, you're going to be like 80% chance that's not going to be good, you know. If you look at a band that looks like that. I mean, not good, but just not great, you know, not just super memorable.
Okay.
There's, dime a dozen bands trying to do that, but not really succeeding, But
yeah, I know Tony's a big fan of the Circle with Stencil.
It's
if there's any that he loves.
A classic, classic graphic design.
Absolutely.
French for punk. I remember when those two singles came out, and then that band just disappeared.
Right.
Like, it was like those singles were there, and people liked them, and then it just went away.
Right.
And it didn't seem like there was, but I don't remember if it was the one that the band from Finland. It's like maybe he's even members of Tikuri. Maybe I'm not sure.
1981 might be, yes.
I think it actually. I think it is members of, but and I love both of those bands for completely different reasons. But those 1981 records were also just like perfect,
brutal,
just insane. Like taking that style of like maybe less Crass and more Zounds or the Mob, or even like early New Model Army or something, like really incredible songs. But States, the records. I visited. I saw times in Japan when they did, but they just never came to the States, and then they vote. And like totally different, which is incredible. But it would have been, 1981 play in the States and see the reaction in Japan was pretty incredible. I remember it being, for a band that had no distortion really on their guitars, it was like very clean guitar sound. And then they were following like these super heavy bands. They still just got like a really incredible response from like just Japanese punks. Or just
I think even I went to see 1981 in King Cobra.
You might have been there.
Yeah, King Cobra. I saw him at King Cobra. Yeah.
So,
speaking of we kind of we started talking about 1981 instead. Okay. That's actually another thing. That's like 2009-ish, right? Yeah, Dennis, those records came out.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna get back to those years in my next pick, actually. So.
All right. Yeah, I think they're actually from San Diego, so my bad. I thought they were from like the middle of the U.S., middle of nowhere, but
there you go.
Correction.
All right. Yeah. Nice.
All
Tony,
right.
your pick. I thought 1981 was your last pick.
All right. I'm going to take it a little earlier than that. I had this for a long time, and I've always been a fan of it. The Accident, Kill the Bee Gees. Single by Aspects put out on his label in the day. I guess 79. I guess this came out originally. But just recently, semi-recently, Comet, a
There you go.
with everything that the Accident did, at least. And I think this is the original cover. I know it's with the Angry Simone's first record, but I think this is the original single. It's so expensive that I've never even bothered to torture myself to look for the other 1990 reprint single. I think the original, somebody maybe in the chat house. But anyway, just total. It's like super catchy, but it's also completely. It's like teetering, like maybe it's off the fun rail point, but trash. 19. When I listen to like same kind of feel of like keyboard, or like records band for sure. Zodiac, the Infections, punk rock and roll with just kind of style and attitude of course. By the Accident. But anyway, yeah, so the 1990 reissue, and then I guess just a recent LP that looks like it has a bunch of songs that I had never heard before. I had only ever had that 7-inch. So yeah.
There's a used copy in Disc Union. I love that song, but I was thinking like, what, how good are all the other songs on it? Are they? Do they kind of?
They're pretty good.
They're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's in the same vein. It's just like, I mean, maybe not as like quintessentially like fucking Kill the Bee Gees, which is just like incredible, But well, the flip to the single is on here, and that song is pretty incredible. The I think it's No Romance for You, I believe, right? No, True Detective is the flip to that, which is pretty great. So yeah, just like an awesome band, and kind of like, I guess, forgotten, or kind of just in the heap of Killed by Death, kind of world, which there's incredible stuff that's floating around there, of course. But it was cool just to see an LP get reissued of everything, because I think even this 1990 single had been long out of print or whatever. So yeah,
nice.
So yeah, just some trash, snotty trash punk, which warms my heart.
We love the Bee Gees, though, right? We're all Bee Gees fans.
They shall remain alive and well, only maybe not in the hearts.
Staying alive. All right, Jesse.
So yeah, I got one that I don't.
Is Tony like kind of breaking up a little bit for you guys?
Am I breaking up? Hopefully not.
Visual.
Okay.
Visual's a little blurry.
Okay. My camera's crap, and I have this light above my head, but if I move away from the light, it like the camera gets crazier, so that's why it looks kind of fucked up. So I don't know.
You look great. Because I can't see you. All right, Jesse, what's your next?
So next one is something that I found like in the new arrivals at a local record store, Used Kids Records. And I was really surprised to find it there. This is like, I don't know, like it's not in the Bonzer sense for most people, I guess. But for me, it's something that like I passed up maybe 10 or 15 years ago and hadn't seen since. And like, it's something that I wouldn't have been sad to find sooner. So I was really happy I found it. But this is another one of those bands that I think like might be a lost in the 80s, kind of not as popular as everyone else around them, but still, if you're a fan, you love them. If you're not a fan, then you probably don't. I don't think they've gotten any reissues. I might be wrong. I don't, keep up with it as much, but this was sitting in the front of a box.
Oh,
yeah. So the Rape Teenagers Flexi.
Nice.
Yeah, that's it's a promo for I Crofton's Clore.
Right. Yeah.
The one with the the Croftons on the front. This band, I fucking love them. I mean, like maybe it's just the name, didn't ever make them that popular. But if you ask me, like for every disarm painted on a leather jacket, there should be 2 rape teenagers painted on each arm. Like,
It's a rough. The music is
they're
great.
so
It's a
fucking good.
rough fucking name. They did that to
Yeah.
themselves even then.
Right. And
Yeah.
I mean, hey, in like 1986, maybe we weren't as forward thinking as we
Well,
are now.
it's a sort of
Um,
it's a punk name, you know, in that sort of 77 style.
True. And they're Swedish, so you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if you haven't heard Rape Teenagers, for anybody out there who hasn't, you totally should. Like super fast, melodic, like they show that you can be incredibly intense without a ton of distortion. One of those types of great bands. When I listen to this, like just being able to hear the bass and the guitar and the drums clearly, and I can hear like what the bass is doing, it blows my mind. So it's really fucking cool. And I'm so glad I found that in Ohio, of all places, because I don't think it got that much distribution around unless Dennis, this was yours and you sold it or something. No. Yeah, because like on the message board 10 years ago, 15 years ago, Brian was able to contact Peter, right?
It's a Sweden hammer.
Yeah, and we were able to get like fresh copies of the LPs and stuff, but either I passed up the flexi or it was gone. I don't remember which, but yeah, now I have one and I'm much happier.
Great band.
Yeah.
The entire catalog is celebrated by me.
There's like one record that I don't celebrate. I think it's called Buffar, maybe.
Oh, there's one there's like 3 LPs, I think, and one of them isn't quite as good as the third LP, Clock, is really good.
Yeah, and then Crofton's Claw is good.
Yes.
And then there's the split with there's a split too.
There's also the
Kurt
solo,
yeah.
Yes.
That's
There's
really
also,
good.
like the solo project by the main guy called Alvaret. They have a full-length LP. It sounds exactly like Rape Teenagers. Yes.
Okay, I should check that out sometime.
Alvaret. Yes.
Is that a current band? Alvaret?
80s, early 90s.
80s.
Yes.
The name is ringing a bell, but I thought of them as maybe a modern band with that name and not an 80s band.
I mean, they were sort of like one of those bands that was quite, at the time, they were quite well known. Like their records were very well distributed, like back in the 80s and early 90s. They were on in every distro, like, you know, everyone would have the records. They were on a DIY label that kind of, you know, was sending their records everywhere. So, wasn't one of the records like, didn't one of the records have a US pressing as well, like one of the LPs? Over the Top records? I don't know.
I don't know. It's behind this Hako Yamazaki record. I don't know. I dare not touch it.
Yes.
Oh, Neuro.
Sorry.
That sounds cool.
Yes. Actually, the name of the band I was thinking of isn't Alvaret. It's just Al. It's Al something.
Al Bundy.
Big Al. Big Al. Yeah, I love that band. Kind of reminds me of that band, that Puke, a little bit, but more quirky though. More quirky, you know.
That was the other thing. Yeah, like there's 3 songs on the flexi. One is, I mean, they're all like fast hardcore songs, but like the second one incorporates a viola, and it's like the shortest song on the record. And then the third one's got an organ, and it's got like, you know, circus like pop parts and stuff, and it's like still good, you know.
Yeah, I think they're amazing. It's very
super original
and energetic and anthemic as well. And I like the vocals too. They're a bit sort of in the higher register, but they're very sort of
I think the anthemic part, like the way he just holds out stuff and everything. Yeah. It's very cool. Yeah. Don't know Swedish, but I do when I listen to them. Right.
Nice. All right. This is sort of a sub-theme that kind of runs through a lot of my picks, in the sense that Jesse kind of maybe remembered these years, what you call the wilderness years, the wasted years, the years when I was not interested in any like new punk or any new hardcore, like at all. Wasn't interested, didn't care. Anything that Jesse played me was not as good as anything that I'd already heard like 10 years before. My ears were closed to any like new punk and hardcore. But
I remember it well.
Jesse probably remembers it more than I do, yeah. But the upside is, of course, now I can go back and grab all those records, and a lot of them are in the used cheap bins, and I can and it's all this like new listening material for me that for other people they've had enough of it, but to me it's sort of new music, and it's basically endless at this point, right? So I don't know. What are we talking about? Mid 2000s kind of thing, like Dennis was saying, like 2009 for that OK record. That sort of time stamp, right? Like whenever Jesse was living in Japan, both times.
2006 to 2014.
That's pretty much it, right? I would say.
I think it was probably like 2010 to 2012 or so.
Okay.
When it was a little dicey.
Okay.
You were,
I see it. But I think it was extended beyond your, like, you living
my tenure.
It continued.
Mike was posting on the
I was going to say there.
Posting on the profanities word about Rory Gallagher a lot around that time.
Yeah, I sort of had I was more cynical and jaded when I was 40 than I am at 57.
Like the great
So now I'm almost the other way. I'm almost too excited about new stuff, whereas other people aren't. It's like the tables have turned. So anyway, this is one of those bands that I didn't know about. Probably people loved them in 2008. I might have heard them, wasn't interested, but it's weird. I just picked up 3 of their LPs like that, all for 800 yen each, and I'm having a good time with this band. They were from Brooklyn, New York. First record came out in 2008 on an indie label, but quickly got repressed on a bigger label because they were a hot topic at the time. All-girl band. And guesses.
You can see Dennis thinking.
I tried not to sort of look too much up about this band because I didn't want to see what people thought about this band in 2008. I just wanted to judge it with my own ears, and I think these records are really, really good. And the Vivian girls, of course he is.
Right on the tip. I was.
You were about to say it?
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. Vivian girls. See, new to me in 2024. Just getting into the Vivian girls in 2024.
Not heard them.
Dennis is like me. I feel like Dennis is similar to me.
That record is great. I liked it when it came out and saw them a bunch of times as those 3 records were released. Just fuzz girl group Ramones.
Yeah. It was obviously I'm new to this band, but it's so familiar to me, even though these particular records are sort of new. To me, it sort of reminded me of a lot of bands that you'd hear on John Peel from Scotland or, from England. C86, like the Shop Assistants, the Flatmates, but a little bit more punked up,
Definitely a Ramones. There's a Ramones, Jangle Ramones, kind of shit happening there. I was a big fan of that record when it came out, and they were always great live. I didn't listen to those other 2 records quite as much, but that one is really that one's awesome. So.
Yeah, this is my pick. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to play by the rules. This is my pick. But I have to say, everybody, I do like the second album a little bit better. This one. It's a little bit more developed. I think the songs are better. There's some really I forgot the name of the song, When I'm Gone maybe, but some real sort of hit single material, on this record. Yeah, it's I don't know. I'm having a good time with getting into this band. Way too late. This one's okay. This one's sort of going in more into the 60s and pop influence, maybe a bit sort of moving away from the sort of punk Ramones influence. But and I hadn't heard the 4th album. There's a 4th LP too, but I haven't heard that. But great band. What did everybody love the Vivian girls back in the day? Were they loved? Were they hated? Did anybody see them live?
I feel like people liked them. They played Baltimore a couple of times, and I think I saw them maybe in Philadelphia once also. Always a well-attended show. I think people liked them. I think people liked them well. That that they also like at the same time. I can't remember if it's also like the Best Coast record. Mike, have you ever heard that? It's like the exact same sort of style of like fuzz girl group Ramones situation or whatever. But I like the Vivian Girls more than Best Coast. But you know, if you see the first Best Coast record around, it's incredibly similar, I guess, in its kind of style and execution. But I feel like people like the Vivian Girls. All the shows were well attended, and you know, and they always put on a good show. Like all the shows. So
you know what? The only thing I did do when I kind of looked up this band, the only thing, you know, where I checked the old message board that we alluded to a little bit, and they did come out. It was like there was a sort of very infamous show which was like Fucked Up, the Vivian Girls, and Inepsy, and apparently that was sort of a real like a show of the time. You know, it was like these three bands, all of them amazing, and all of them of like 2007, 2008, whenever that was. But that's a pretty good show. It was pretty good show.
Like, without really knowing them, I feel like the members of Vivian Girls were like actively interested in current punk and hardcore and stuff like that at the same time, even though that wasn't really, Robert said he saw him with some deranged hardcore band. I think that, despite the fact that they don't sound like that they themselves were, did and thought of in some way, as being cool to play with those, being cool to play with more hardcore bands and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, so I'm almost glad is not the right word, but I'm happy that I can enjoy these records. Now my ears are open. It's good. It's good to be old. It's good to get old. I was such a stuck. I was a terrible person in 2008. Let's move on. Dennis, what's your next pick?
There was a lot of fighting on the profane board about Stadium Crust back then.
Oh, that's probably why that put me off punk for life. Probably.
I'm gonna switch gears a little bit. Take us back to 1969.
1969.
Yes, back before I was born. Some hippie shit.
Oh,
Fairport, I think this is the fourth album, probably. I think. This is the one I listen to the most for them. I'm a Sandy Denny fan.
It's the best one. Like none of the others even come close to that one, in my opinion.
True. Yeah. I mean, pretty true. I do like pretty much any of the stuff she's on. I don't really listen to the stuff she's not on. Her voice is just fucking amazing. This is just some like 30th repress or some shit. I don't know.
There's a lot of versions out there. But man, that's one of the best records of all time in my opinion.
Oh yeah, it's so good, and this like it's so funny. I was watching an interview about where they were talking about her, and they just said she just kind of had this way about like writing lyrics and singing songs that just kind of felt like they were these old folk songs, even though she didn't really know a lot of like history or anything like that, but she just had a knack for it. But that song, a lot of this kind of has like a feel like that, and I mean that song Tamlin's really freaking cool as well. This is a favorite grass mowing album.
Grass mowing?
Yeah, you just sit there kind of
mowing,
snickering about the stud who had sex with a girl and got turned into a tree,
But unlike not all of the songs, but a lot of them are sort of old traditional like folk songs that they sort of rearranged and stuff, right?
Yeah, Tamlin's an old song, right?
Yeah,
Actually, an actual old song.
Yeah.
It's just such a cool, like kind of eerie, folky, really catchy vibe too. All that stuff at the same time. They get called the Jefferson Airplane of the UK.
Oh, but way better than that though.
I agree, exactly. Yeah, definitely better.
It has this like Wicker Man. It's one of those like Wicker Man vibe things, the British countryside, like Hammer horror, like just has that eerie vibe to it. Like the other one that she sings on, which is Unhalf Bricking, is quite good too. Full House is quite good, but she isn't on that one. But yeah, they went downhill real quick after she left. Like, it's just like a standard sort of folk rock band after she left, right? It's like,
quite boring.
Yes,
pretty boring.
Not really, really bad, but like compared to like that record, it's such a big step down, you know.
Yeah. It just kind of goes on, and there's not really doesn't have the hooks anymore.
Have you heard the Fotheringay record, Dennis?
Yeah,
it's not bad. It's like half and half, and then like
I've got that one.
Some of the solo records are good too.
Yeah, I've got a good amount of her solo stuff. I really like the one with the Straubs. It's like a double 12-inch with her and them, and I don't know anything about the Straubs, but like that's really good.
Straubs are sort of one of the biggest like psychedelic bands from the UK of the era. But the thing is with her, they sort of wanted to make her into a sort of big star, so you can tell they're getting all these sort of big shot producers in. It's sort of airbrushed, and there's her on the cover, sort of this airbrushed photos and stuff. It's totally not what she was about, you know. I think they sort of sabotaged her a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
When she became so.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what she would have turned into, or if they'd have just ruined her anyway. But
she fell down the stairs, right, in her house. Fell down the stairs and just died.
I believe so. Very young.
Yeah, super young.
Man.
Yeah, one of the best singers of all time.
Oh, her voice is
that Fairport convention record is sitting used in the store, and I've never listened to it in my life. Any solo records in the store, also never listened to. So this has made me. Tomorrow I'll check them out.
That record will not be for sale after tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean,
recently, that stuff is a little bit of a blind spot for me. But I recently picked up some of the, this kind of like folky. They say like psych folk, but really I don't know that there's any psychedelic influence. But that woman Judy Sill.
She was like a Christian psych singer, right?
Yeah, but like her Christian lyrics, maybe when they say psych, because the Christians are kind of apocalyptic and weird. You know what I mean? They're not normal. It's not like, oh my Jesus kind of lyrics. They're like, they're pretty weird.
Music. Psych.
But those records are, she kind of sort of disappeared, right? She disappeared for decades, and then she kind of popped up again. And is that the story with those Julie Sill records? And then like they got reissued, right? They got reissued.
Like in the last maybe reissue, but they're both great, and maybe I feel like they're primering me for more, Sandy Denny solo record.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll be my homework. I'm gonna go into the store.
Go back to the store and grab it before someone.
It's tomorrow. When I'm there tomorrow, So
I actually recently upgraded my copy. I just had like an 80s like non-gatefold like copy, and I got like a real old like UK reprise gatefold, and like it's one of those records that you sort of need to have a good pressing of. I think so.
Yeah, nice.
I see copies of it at the store, like under, like in the overstock. I think there might be a couple. So,
I mean, they made millions of them, right? There's millions of them out there in the world. It's sort of like it's sort of like rumors, There's millions of them.
No,
millions of them out there. All right, Tony, what's your?
All righty. Well, every time I do this, I feel like I have to take one record that I stretch my time in the 90s at Reptilian when it was, explosion that was happening in the late 90s, early. And I've probably picked other records by this dude's bands before that I've been on here. I think maybe one time I pulled a Blacktop record, but this time the Screws, which is there we go, Mick Collins from the Dirt Bombs and the Gories. This was like a slightly lesser. I don't know. It's like the Dirt Bombs and the Gories had their Day in the Sun, and people still talk about and remember them. But Blacktop and the Screws were definitely lesser known, I feel like, or really make it out. put out this record or whatever. But I think there might have only been one pressing of this record, and it just kind of disappeared. But if you like that kind of just like pure garage rock, Mick Collins, Gories style, this record was just like forgotten, and it's incredible. It's got some like raw punk kind of tracks on it, and then some total Stooges sleaze, like saxophone sleaze, like maybe even like the Hypnotics kind of, it's all coming from the Stooges really, but some of it reminds me a little Hypnotics, like sleazy kind of Stooges era, but some of it is just like total trash punk also, so it's a good kind of mix. And this one, people always just talk about the Gories and the Dirt Bombs, and the man made a lot of records, and so the Screws.
Yeah, I never knew that was a Mick Collins band.
Yeah, they do. There's a second that I've never quite been able to wrap my head around. I didn't like it as much as this one, but I feel like when I break this one out, where's that second Screws record? Like, was it as bad as I remember, or like as different from this one as I remember it being? But I haven't seen a vinyl copy of that one in forever, so I haven't had a chance to listen to it. But this one is just like, total raw punk garage, and then Stooge sleaze kind of mixed over it. So it's pretty great though.
Cool. All right.
Cool. Okay, my next one links to 1981 because it came out in 1981. This is a band like I think I heard about when I really first started getting into hardcore, thanks to something somebody put on a tape for me. And then later, like I can't remember if it was the same friend or a different friend, like gifted me their discography CD. And I don't know, this was like in the 2000s, but I recently forced Dennis and Matt to listen to this in the car when we drove to Cincinnati. Can't tell if they liked it or not, but I don't care. So Really Red.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So first LP, right? 1981 on their own label, because probably nobody else was putting stuff out, CIA Records. This is just like punk from that time when there really wasn't any established like punk. So people were just kind of doing what they did, right? And that is really fucking cool, and it speaks to me a lot. So like the recording quality varies, but mostly it's like cleaner than dirtier and stuff like that. You hear all these weird influences of like art, like just noise, improvisation, weird shit, but also just like cowpunk and whatever was coming, because they're from Texas, Houston. You can almost feel some influences. You want to hear influences from like Austin around the time as well, but I don't know how much they meshed. Someone much better versed in Texas punk could tell me about that. But this record is just, I'm really glad I got a chance to grab a copy of it, because I've been listening to a CD for forever, and Mike won't let me put CDs on the show. So, here you go. Finally, I bought this just for this show.
That's weird, Jesse, because I too bought. When did you buy that? Like
a couple months ago.
Me too.
Good.
Pretty recently, like within this year, and it's been in my sort of to talk about pile, but I haven't been able to because I can't find the correct words to talk about it. So I'm chuffed that you
still searching.
It's like it's not an easy record to talk about, but it's
like when you look at some of the songs, like Teaching You the Fear is like one of the better known songs. I think it was comped on something. But like Barbecue, 44 Seconds. What could this song be about? Mainly barbecue. Like Houston, Texas. Awesome. Yeah. Daniel, you think that the CD wasn't that good?
It's poorly served, but this one. Yeah.
Well, who's gonna listen to like 74 minutes of Really Red? Come on. But Dennis and Matt, unfortunately. But like the second LP tracks are cool. Like they got comped on Bloodstains and like Killed by Death. I think like number 2. They're on Deep in the Throat of Texas. So like people knew the singles, but I think the LP is where they really shine because you just hear like the flow, you know, from the beginning to the end. And it's a really cool trip, you know, and a lot of their lyrics too are like super forward looking, or maybe they're just universal. You know, there's like songs about the end of society, you know, like when the trucks stop running, you better have a gun, shit like that. It's like, oh, I guess that could happen in 1981 or 2024. Or like, yeah, and just tracks about, you know, racism that was going on back then in Texas, still going on now around the world and shit like that. So very cool. I'm glad I got a copy.
Didn't Alternative Tentacles like reissue?
I think they did, yeah. So they're also on Let Them Eat Jelly Beans.
Like,
So I think like Alternative Tentacles did have like a grasp on it, but not when it came out. But yeah, I think they reissued this one.
right.
Yeah.
I remember I like that record a lot. I like their songs. At one time I did an collection and the resin that collection, and it's got a horse on the cover. It's just like, right? Am I correct that
The black and red cover one.
really thought there was shit talking out of my ass. Hold on
There's
a
a
second.
7-inch with a saddle on the cover.
Is there a saddle on the cover? Is it like a horse, the saddle on the cover? Okay.
There's a
I just
horse
remember
saddle,
yeah. Maybe I'm just maybe I'm thinking about the saddle cover. I'm gonna let you guys continue. I need to know what's on the cover.
Yes, you need to
Okay.
solve
The
this
saddle.
horse-based quandary that you.
Yeah. Confusing it with a Terry Cadet has that record. The horse.
The horse has a horse on the cover. Yes.
That is a horse.
That's
There's also a Technocracy record with a horse.
probably,
What other horse records are there?
probably a lot of records with horses on.
Horse-based hardcore.
Dust?
All right. Right. Tony Pence, Tony Montana, Tony Cadena, Tony Reflex, Tony Brandenburg, Tony Adolescent. One of these Tonys is not like the rest. Why does he have so many names? It's confusing. Stick with one name. So anyway, we know. I guess we know who I'm talking about. Everybody knows this record. It's a classic. It's been shown on this show. Everybody loves this record. This is not my pick. Adolescent's first record. This one, when I showed this, got a lot of like, whoa, I've never heard of this record. And people were kind of like blown away by how good it was. This is like the Abandoned record from 1985, which he sings on. And I talked about it like in episode like 10 or something. And yeah, people went out and it's been reissued. And anyway, this is not my pick, but it's like Tony Adolescent is a singer. Amazing record. This next one is also, it's similar to this one. Do I have to explain what the Abandoned record is again? What's like?
I've never heard that. I didn't know about that.
It's not my pick, but it's been go back and look at like episode 10 or whatever. But like anyway, Tony Adolescent was in this other band like in the 80s, and this record is also amazing. Another one could be forgotten. I don't know. I think it's one of the best like Californian punk hardcore records of all time. It's Tony Adolescent and the Flower Leperds, Dirges in the Dark. Yeah, see, there you go. Yes, I am, Daniel. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. There you go.
Yeah, that artwork is wild. I don't own that record, but I like it. Yeah,
it's like, I don't know. It just reminds me of like Flipside magazine, you know, like, you know, it's like LA or whatever, California, 1988. It's like, it's a little bit rock and roll, but it's like Southern Californian punk, sort of updated for the late 80s. It's a little bit Sunset Strip. Like Tony's like totally channeling like Derby Crash. There's some like heavy rock in there. It's like 2 Alice Cooper covers, actually like 1.5, let's say. One of them's even not like listed on the track list. But man, it's just like super catchy, punky, hard rockish, a little bit metallic, like Southern California punk with Tony Montana singing. It's so good. maybe a little bit forgotten. I'm not sure, but if you like
Or,
Southern California punk from the 80s, it's a no-brainer, I would say. Triple X Records. It's like it seems like so sleazy to me. It's like when I think of Triple X, I think of like DI and like this like super sleazy. It's got this like little bit sort of sleazy vibe to it. But yeah, so good. Sunset Strip reminds me a little bit of like the GBH era. You know, the sort of late 80s GBH as well. A little bit metallic.
cool.
Yes.
Not familiar.
Yeah, I've heard it.
Why doesn't anybody know this record? Maybe like it's like 88. You know, it's like very unfashionable. I want to say, even for 1988, like people didn't understand this record maybe like in 1988 because it's like a little bit metally. I don't know. And people just like the Adolescents. They don't really care what any other band like Tony Montana does. It's like, you know. There you go. And maybe the artwork. I don't know. Hollywood Boulevard mail address. Yeah. Hollywood.
It's cool.
Yeah. Send them a letter. Write in and ask if they still got any copies of Dirges in the Dark. The Ramsey Campbell, The Height of the Scream. What's that? That's like the sort of book that this old guy is reading on the cover. There you go. Let us know in the comments. Who's Ramsey Campbell?
horror author.
Okay.
Horror author. I think I have something of his over there in the paperbacks.
Oh, really?
But,
there you go.
Not that book, but yeah, he has some.
It is a lost classic. It really is. And they were a band before Tony Adolescent joined them. And I was like, and the other record has like this sort of very stark, like black and white sort of death rock looking cover. I thought that one would be even better than this. It isn't. This is the one. This is the one to get with Tony on vocals.
Nice.
Right, Dennis, what's your next pick?
All right. Is this the last pick, or do you get another one?
No. Two more.
Two more.
Two more.
Woo! Well, I just grabbed like
We're only an hour
pile.
and 20 minutes in. We're just getting started.
All right. I still have my pile here from the last time too. I guess I never put them away.
There you go.
All right. When did this one come out? This is, I believe, Tokyo band, and I don't. Someone might have talked about this record, but I come to this one every once in a while for some inspiration. It's a pretty ripping Japanese hardcore record.
Accomplice.
7-inch. Yeah. What is this? 90s, mid 90s, I guess. And lots of comments always about their clothing, their pants.
Quintessential.
Yes.
You'd be scared if you were in the same room.
I mean, they don't have any shirts, so what else are you going to talk about, right?
Yeah, you express yourself through your pants, I guess.
But those aren't like work pants. Those are like military pants, I think. Yeah, imagine if they took that picture in work pants.
Yes. That era of like Japanese hardcore is like fucking wild, you know.
Yeah, this is my shit here, you know, 90s, any 90s Japanese hardcore. If I'm raiding the bins whenever I get the chance for this stuff.
That's not quite Bonza status, but it's like not easy to find these days, you know.
Yeah, I had a hard time getting this one. I got this one in Japan. I guess I never really tried on Discogs or anything, but probably, you know, maybe paying too much for it there. But yeah, I don't think it goes for that much for a lot of money either. I don't know. I have no idea, but it's up there, I guess. I don't know, probably top of the second tier or something maybe, but it's just freaking raging and just so powerful.
Yeah, it's
You
like
wanna
that
know
sort of second or third wave, slightly younger than sort of Death Side, but were influenced by Death Side and that wave, right? That's pretty much what it is, right? It's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't really veer too much, doesn't get too weird. It's just mean and
more straightforward than Death Side, though, right? More to the point.
One might
Yeah,
say
not
less
as-
talent.
what's that?
Hindered by talent.
Hindered by talent, yeah. But Pence. There's so many bands, all those discrete records bands. There's like so many, all doing similar things. It's actually sort of more Lip Cream, actually, if you think about it in a way. It's sort of I think Lip Cream are the biggest influence on traditional Japanese hardcore.
Yeah, because it's not real metal like
Right.
Death Side, I mean, it does have really nice solos and stuff, but yeah, it's not. Yeah, I think you're right about the Lip Cream thing. But yeah, fuck.
Pence.
Yeah, Pence. Cool. Human. You what?
It's all great. I saw them. There was that compilation, right? The Abi Kyokan on
Yeah,
NSR,
the tour EP.
Yes, which is what Accomplice,
Plays, right?
Alder, and Blaze, I think.
Yeah.
The 4 bands on that.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know.
Blaze.
Yeah, one time I played this record and I turned the pitch all the way up on my turntable when Mike was in my house, and he was not happy. He's like, "No, you're ruining it. You're ruining it." I'm like, "It sounds so much better now." Just turn the pitch up, automatically makes the record better.
If you did that now, I'd probably be a bit more lenient with you.
Oh, thank you.
That's cheating. You can't pitch the records.
I don't know, man. It's kind of hard to listen to that on regular pitch for me.
Yes, nice catch, James. No problem for like current day that style. No problem. It's your go-to band. Nothing. No releases. Just like some split CD. Just they only have like 7 songs, which they play at every show.
But they've been around for like 20 years.
20 years.
Yeah.
Have like beer koozies and T-shirts and hoodies and.
The famous artist. I mean,
yes. Well, I mean, yes.
Like Naka-san, yeah. But
Naka-san is their artist, which doesn't hurt. Design an LP cover at least. You have to make any music. Just design
new songs. Smirch. God.
That's a great pick. Classic era of like Japanese hardcore for sure.
Yeah, they have no other full records or.
So just that and a comp track or 2, maybe a demo tape, maybe.
Yeah, tour tape, right? Was there a split tour tape or some crap?
Nice. All right, Tony, what's your next pick?
I'm gonna do my best Mike impression here. I'm just gonna say words.
Is that what I do on the show? Just say words.
You go like this. You go like this. You just go 1980.
Okay.
England. Peaceful white reggae.
Not as what.
But all 3 of those things are all this record by the Carpets, Fight Amongst Yourselves. I really, really love this record. It's actually kind of it's more of like a punk power pop record with some occasional kind of probably Clash influenced kind of reggae songs that are just, they're fine. It's nothing offensive. It's just easy to breeze by those. But all the other songs are really just like biting, sharp, kind of like catchy punk songs. I don't know, kind of like there's elements of a little power pop element, also a little bit of like the jam or maybe like neo mod kind of like vibe is happening as well. And yeah, it's just a really great record. They have a record after this that's not so good, and then there's a 7-inch before this called Small Wonder. Actually, I think there's an LP before this too, but this is the one that I've always liked the most. And yeah, the songs are just like super catchy, like really cool, like kind of like, you know, one part punk, one part the jam, kind of just really, really great tracks on this one. So, and I think it got reissued by Radiation, just kind of churning out lots of like reissues and things. This one's, I guess, the original. You know, it's probably like record. I don't, you know, it's not like really commonly out there. Maybe that's why Radiation, but it's not expensive.
It's the Carpets, right, with 2 T's.
Yeah,
man, that Small Wonder track is like one of those sort of wild ones, like Users, Sick of You, or you know, it's one of those like.
It's not. This LP is not quite one level, but some great songs on it. It's like just like that, you know, punker end of power pop. I guess it's so. Yeah, really
nice. Nice. The Carpets. I think Vinyl Japan put out the first LP, maybe like Japanese version, maybe.
It sounds like something they do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
It really feels like a band that probably has a lot of fans.
A gigantic fan.
big base there. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they had not gotten back together and toured Japan at some point.
Like the Boys, that kind of thing, right?
Yes.
The Boys had some records.
Yeah.
Vinyl Japan.
Yeah.
All right. Beautiful. All right, Jesse, what's your fourth pick?
Yeah, so this one is something that I've been listening to just like during work and stuff like that. It's not to say it's, you know, not foreground music, but it's also great background music. I didn't know anything about it. Somebody I follow who sells records, or Mike Simonetti, his like account on Instagram, he had a copy, and I checked out a track and I'm like, I want this. So John Hassel. Yeah.
Wow.
Power spot. Get that power spot. Yeah. It's really fucking cool. So John Hassel is a trumpeter. And you wouldn't know it from listening to this record. Like there's nothing that sounds like a trumpet. There are things that sound like somebody like humming through a trumpet mouthpiece into a echoplex. There's like tribal drumming. There's like electronic raindrop sounds. It's out there, but it's super it's very rhythmic. It can really pull you in, you know. But also some tracks sound completely ambient and some tracks sound super, you know, up in front. And one thing I didn't realize, this one was also produced and engineered by Brian Eno. So that probably has a bit to do with the sound. Some of the tracks, like they could be in Blade Runner. You know, if there was like a jazz lounge scene in Blade Runner, this is total like future dark jazz kind of shit. It's really cool. Yeah, just tons of percussion mixed in with just weird, like, I don't know, trumpets going in one ear and out the other and stereo panning and stuff. It's very experimental, very cool. 1980 something, 86. Yeah, on ECM Records.
I was going to say, I bet that's on ECM. It's like wild label.
It's like a very German label. Yes. Yeah.
That's actually a very that's a very wild cover for an ECM record.
ECM, right? Like, like pastels and like stock.
Yes. There's like
photo.
Hundreds of ECM records that are easily confused with other ECM records because it's just like a pastel color with no art whatsoever. So that's kind of amazing that it's got like kind of a creative
traditional Navajo design. Yeah. I mean, like I was reading, I was just kind of like looking up some stuff about John Hassel, and I found some interview around the time this was coming out, and like the way he put how he views making music was so cool. He's like, or talking about raga music, like Indian raga music, is something like the perfection of preparation mixed with improvisation. And it's like, that's a pretty cool way to look at shit. Like, you know where you're going, but you can do whatever you want when you're there. So very cool.
We've got some sort of ESP thing going on tonight because I was literally I've got this podcast which is a really pretentious podcast, but I can't stop listening to it. It's the album years. It's like Stephen Wilson, like from the Porcupine Tree. He's like such a pretentious guy. You know, he's like remixed like all the Pink Floyd records, the Black Sabbath records, King Crimson, and he's my age, but he looks a lot younger. What's going on with that? But anyway, he's got like this podcast. And they sort of go into years and they start talking about, whenever that was. It's like, John Hassel put out a record in. And I'm like, John Hassel? And they were talking about like John Hassel and the Eno thing, the Eno connection. So literally this week, I was listening to
There you go.
Wilson talking about John Hassel and how great he is. And
He's pretty great. I mean, I don't have any other records. I checked out one other thing. And I wasn't that into it. So I don't know. I mean, I'll pick things up if I see them and give it a shot and go that way.
It seems like a rabbit hole.
Meditative. Yes. Yeah, a meditative place, shall we say. Grass-cutting music. As Dennis says, put it.
Nice. Oh,
yeah. It's your turn.
It's my turn. It's the last round.
Oh,
cheers, everyone. Cheers. Check your dollar bins for this one. This is my last pick. I feel like this must be a dollar bin ripper. Everyone's leaving. This must be like a dollar bin rager. I got it from actually it was 300 yen over here, but I don't know. I felt like I was ripping off the record store by only paying 300 yen for this record. Do we like Ross the Boss?
That's a subject that's come up recently. I mean, I don't know about personally, but musically,
not as a person, just as sort of a guitar player, you know, or I mean, well, okay, let's make it easier. Do we like Ross the Boss in Man of War?
Yes.
I mean, you know, it's okay. I do personally. I think like his guitar style is like really important in the way like Man of War sound. But anyway, do we like Ross the Boss in the Dictators?
Absolutely.
Of course.
I figured that would get
it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean,
Stay With Me. Come on.
Yes, that's a good song. I'm still not convinced by the Dictators, but do we like Ross the Boss in this band? What is this band? 1980.
Not Man of War?
Not 1980. CBS Records. The band that he was in that forged Man of War. The reason Man of War were formed was because of this band and a certain gig or tour that they did in 1980 with Black Sabbath and Blue Oyster Cult. This band was the support band in Europe, and Ross the Boss was the guitar player because their guitar player had quit. And this is like good time, let's party. Like if you don't like this record, do you even like rock and roll? Shakin Street.
Shakin Street. I've not heard that record.
What?
Solid as a rock.
This is a I don't know why this is on there. Like Solid as a Rock is the 7-inch. This is definitely like a sticker from the 7-inch that someone has like slammed on the front of the record. This is like the self-titled record. Female vocalist, this is her. It's basically her band. They had like one more record out before. This is Fabienne Shine or Shine. She's the vocalist. It's just that sort of punky, hard rock, power pop, no ballads. Ross the Boss like tearing up on the guitar. Definitely sounds more like the Dictators or Manitoba's Kingdom than like Man of War. Great vocalist. Everybody check your dollar bins for
sold. Looking for that one. That sounds good.
Yeah, sold.
I don't even think that one's ever come through the store. I mean, I was
expecting to say Tony. It's like, man, we've got 10 copies of this. Like in the...
No, not that one. I don't think I've ever seen that come through the store. I put it on just because of the cover. I would have thrown it on, but I've never seen it.
Yeah.
How did you know about it, Mike? What possessed you to buy it?
Whoa! I mean, just look at it, and then and then
Was it the fact that it was solid as a rock?
and you turn it over, and it's like, oh look, Ross the Boss, lead guitar,
Ah.
300 yen. Take my money. I'm a tip as well. You know, this is too cheap. Produced by Sandy Pearlman. You know, Dictators and Broyster Cult producer. You know, this is not a small record. It's like CBS. You know, major label. But yeah, kind of lost in the mist of time, I would say. But yeah. So anyway, they were touring with Black Sabbath and Broyster Cult, and Ross the Boss met Joey DeMeo at one of those shows and hatched a plan. And Man of War was created on that night in Paris. Wherever. So thank Shakin Street for Man of War. No Shakin Street, no Man of War. So there you go.
Hey, I'll eat that stuff up all day, man. Just
Like,
like
it's just one, it does. It's like that. It does sound a bit like Girls' School. It's just that very glammy hard rock, ripping solos. You know, like no ballads.
That's a winning formula, man.
This ain't your grass cutting music.
That's dishwashing music.
Dishwashing music. All right, there you go. All right, Dennis, what's your last pick?
All right, tough choices.
It's tough. The last round's tough.
Yeah, we're gonna stick with some rock, and
That's
maybe it's a weird pick, and I don't know, man. This is
Go with it. Go with it.
This is the 5th album, I think, by this band, and I've been listening the shit out of this album. This is the Donna Spend the Night.
It's got reissued, right?
Right.
Issue, yeah.
Yeah, I was stoked to see the reissue because I think it's like a $100 plus record or something at this point. But it's man, you know, they started off kind of like Ramonesy. It's like these like young, I don't know how old they were, teenagers like Ramones music, and they just kept, you know, getting better and better at their instruments. And this album is like, it's like a women's Turbo Negro album or something. Like, it is just ripping solos, great, yeah, AC/DC punk rock and roll, and just fucking hilarious lyrics, just dumb lyrics, just kind of like, you know, reverse, you know, sexualizing men. You know, it's just kind of like the, you know, just doing that thing, and like the lyrics are just, they're just funny, like just dumb lyrics. Yeah, I don't know.
Right. I was wondering, like, should I go like past what's the second album? The Donnas Turns 21 or whatever. Is that the second one? It's like,
it's a whole different ball game, man. Like, I mean, I really think it's just really good. It's got like that rockin', just driving rock and roll stuff. I mean, I think probably about as good as that Apocalypse dudes or something.
Wow.
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of different. It's more, you know, major label sort of, you know, but like, and more polished. But
wow,
damn, man, it's just fun and it rules.
I'm wondering like how similar that and this are. Like, you should check that out. I'm going to check that out because
yeah, I'm definitely going to listen to that.
I don't know.
But yeah, very sleazy, just dumb songs. Who Invited You? Just, I don't know. It's hilarious. Rips.
Just being reissued, right? I think.
Yeah.
All of them are getting reissued.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd like to get the next one too, the Solid Gold album. There's some good songs on that one too. But I think this is my favorite one, I think, from them. It's just, I don't know. It's just fun.
Wow. How often does that happen when like the 5th record by a punk band is your favorite? Not often, right?
Right, yeah. And they don't sound anything really like they did at this point, you know. the like Lookout Records romance stuff's kind of gone at this point.
Even before that, the very first records were like rip-off record style. They started like when they were like really young, you know, when they were just like in high school or something. That first record, it got reissued with all these other ones. It's a black and white cover. I think it's a collection of the singles, and that stuff is like even the jump from that to the Lookout Records is a pretty serious jump in, you know, crafts, you know, just being like maybe more talented at their instruments and the songwriting and stuff. And then from that to that is another pretty huge jump. So
yeah, I mean, dude, by the time they get to this, like she's you know, this guitar player's probably up there as with Kelly Johnson. Like, just, I mean, really good. Great sense of melody with her solos and awesome riffs.
Nice, man.
Killer.
I'm excited to check it out. Should I kind of listen to a wall before or can I just jump straight to that one?
I think you just go straight to it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm curious what you'll think. I mean, I think it's probably kind of polarizing. Some people might think it's stupid. I don't know,
like
but
too polished or whatever, like too commercial.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know. I think it's got the energy. It rips.
Was that the major label? Was that the major label? Or there's so many. There's like a bunch of records. I confuse the order. Other than just that very first one and the Lookout Records, I kind of confuse the order after that. Like,
I think this is the first major label one on Atlantic before the label kind of ruined them and tried to make them a little bit more mainstream. Because like the next one I think's pretty good, and then the one after that, it's like they're trying to make them do like this glam metal callback thing.
And is that, which one is the solid gold? Yeah. What is that solid gold one? Is that the last one? Or
no, that's the one after this, and then Bitchin' is the one that's kind of like arena metal. I mean, there's still some good songs on it, but they're trying to make them real marketable at that point. It's just kind of doesn't shred like this one does.
Nice. What's the name of that record again, Dennis? Just let us know.
Spend the Night.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, look at that cover. It's so dumb.
I want it. I'm excited to listen to that. Your description is like,
it's just, you know, like they're the Predators looking for, you know, high school yum on this. Shredding solos.
Yeah, it's funny. Like it's funny because like they all got reissued, right? I found like an original of the first record, like for like stupidly cheap. Again, I'm catching up. I'm playing catch up here, you know, with a lot of things. So,
those earlier ones are the ones I expect most punks to
right
take a little bit more seriously. So probably some people would scoff at this one. Love it.
I'm all about it. I'm all about, like, not all about it, but I just love the idea of like a punk band's like 6 LP or like, you know, garage punk bands like 7th LP or
right.
All right, Tony, what's it?
All right,
last pick.
All right, we're in October. Let's talk about a band whose fandom kind of sucks and whose fandoms for himself and all of us for sometimes. I've been playing this a lot, and it was making back to older times. So yeah, since we're here at Halloween, pulled out the Sam Hain. Think about how when I heard this was legitimate of it. Like that sounds to say now, but like the crazy intro to it, the fact that it sounds like it was recorded in a cave, you know, like all these like bars that unless you're throwing it on and like you don't remember how weird it sounds, how weird the recording is, like guitar just a bit, just so strange. record is like super weird, but
Yeah, it really is.
I love all of the songs. It's just so awesome. And, now that we're in the time, Halloween coming up in a couple of days, I was like, oh, I have to break this one out. So I have, and that final pick, Initium.
Man, I remember like hearing that probably because it was the tape trading days. Like hearing that around the same time as like those Misfits records, and I was like, "What's happening here?" Like,
Yeah,
I was like,
so strange.
like what? It's so weird, and
the guitar sounds completely buried and not there at all. The bass sounds like it's completely like recorded in a wave. It's the choices are strange.
That is such a weird band. Yeah,
it's very weird.
That record, it just like when you put it on, like the temperature changes. Nowadays, everybody just makes fun of Danzig or like whatever. But I think back to the times where none of that was happening, and I heard that record, was like, I'm terrified. Was this record recorded in hell? That was like something that I would have actually thought to myself the first time, And I almost want to be able to go back to that time. Nice, yeah. I almost want to be able to go back to that time where records were scary, where I was just like, what the fuck
I think
listening to, and this is just like, a really just like confusing and scary record, but it's still catchy. It's just choices in recording.
Like we know too much about bands anymore, like nothing's scary. It's like that. It was just so mysterious, and he was just a master of like marketing that stuff because it was just so cool looking and just weird, and you're just like, I'm being cursed as I listen to this.
Haunted by this record, or like totally scared by it, or something like that. Fascinating. When I put it back, I can try to transport myself to a time when I was like 16 or 17, and those times being.
Well, they're sort of both linked in with each other, though, right? The age you were when you heard it, and like everything.
It has to be. Yeah, of course. Yeah. There's no real going back, but
there's no going back. No, unfortunately, or maybe if Mortiz comes out with a new record.
Oh, true. Yeah. The only life or listen to records, discovering them for the first time and just going, what the fuck would be like when I started jazz, like listening to like an Ornette Coleman record and just and not obviously not scared of it, just completely breaking my brain. Just I don't understand what's happening.
Actually,
I
would sort of put the argument in that perhaps that Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats record is kind of like that. Right? It is. It could be very frightening if you're into, in a certain way. It's like it's very. I don't know. It's it has an atmosphere to it.
So maybe I'll turn all the lights out and just put it on and see if I can recreate that atmosphere. Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, the last pick of the day.
God. Oh, the pressure.
Don't give him 20 pressure, Jesse.
This one's on Ostinato Records. Do you guys know about Ostinato?
Say it again.
Ostinato. Like, from what I can tell, they're pretty well known for like reissuing lots of stuff from the African continent.
Oh, okay.
Like going around to sub-Saharan jazz and that kind of shit. This record, it just popped up when I was looking at Bandcamp one day. And I was interested because it was about a place that I've lived. So this is something that I never really thought I'd have a chance to hear, or I searched out so much in a place that I lived and I was unable to find. This is Synthesizing the Silk Roads.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, the subtitle is small, but it's like Uzbek disco, Tajik folktronica, Uyghur rock, and Crimean Tartar jazz from 1980s Central Asia. And like, this is fucking cool because I mean, I lived in Uzbekistan for a year.
I remember
Um,
when you were there saying like you couldn't really find much sort of local
yeah,
music.
yeah. So like, Uzbekistan, it's not 100% Islamic country, but like a large part of the population is Muslim, which means that a lot of the music that's made is all about religion or like celebration. So you'd hear it at like weddings, you'd hear it, people singing Quran and stuff like that. But the more and more I spent, like being in taxi cabs and stuff going from place to place, I would hear like pop music. I would hear like hip hop and shit like that. And it's in Uzbek or Russian. So there was, music. However, like I never saw live shows. I always wanted to see stuff. I tried to see like bands play in Uzbekistan in Tashkent in the capital. They were all cover bands. So, like I guess the vibe I got was that, currently in Uzbekistan, there's not a lot of original music. I'm sure there's some, and I wish I could have found it, but not a lot. This is a collection of shit from a record pressing plant in Tashkent, the capital of Uzbekistan,
Wow.
from the Soviet era in the 80s. And like the liner notes are really fucking good. It basically talks about how, at that time, like late 70s, early 80s, the mindset, was all about let's show the art we can make under communism. Let's show, our talents. And so they pretty much took people from all the different ethnic regions and brought a lot of artists to Uzbekistan. And they were all recording in Tashkent. And like early 80s, lots of disco. Like those were the tapes that were going in.
Right.
So that's what a lot of people got out of it. But so this has like a pretty heavy share of disco, but it's good disco, and it's also in small servings. But there's also like live band music that's kind of psych rock kind of stuff. And like really cool thing on the back, you probably can't see, but it does tell you where each group is from. So, like, oh, the first group is Uzbek, the second group is Uzbek, the third group for the first record is Uzbek. But there's Tajik, there's Uyghur, there's Tartar. So there's a range of stuff. There's even stuff from ethnic Koreans who were relocated to Uzbekistan during the Cold War and shit like that. So, or no, not during the Cold War, during Vietnam War times. So, like, yeah, there's this range of stuff out there. And all of this, like, I don't know, when I read it, I just can't, my mind doesn't want to believe it's true for some reason. It's like somebody had to make all these bands up. Somebody had to make all this history up because it's so perfect. And it's like, how did you stumble upon a collection of records that were pressed in the 80s? And it's like a private press collection. Somebody gave you everything. You bought all the rights for all these people around Central Asia. It's insane. So if they really did everything and they did their job and these are all original bands, it's amazing. For me, having lived in Uzbekistan and not being able to see any of this. So yeah, I mean, the quality is great, like music wise, Soviet stuff. Yeah, like seeing somebody just said in the comments, Polish stuff, right?
Yes.
90s Polish crust, but also think about 80s Polish punk, really well recorded, really talented shit. Moscow. Yeah. So this is a really cool record. It's like a double LP. You can find it on Bandcamp, and just listen to it or whatever. But it's very, very cool. So yeah, and very, very rare to hear this kind of stuff.
Man, yeah, I love all that stuff. But I'm like, like someone said, the awesome tapes from Africa. There's a whole bunch of labels like who are doing like amazing work in like archiving all this stuff. Like the one from Iraq that I showed like back 3 years ago, like the Iraqi music that was like illegal, Chubi, things like that. Yeah.
It's all out of print now, though. Like,
Oh, yeah.
unfortunately, they all fell out of print, which sucks. But those are great comps.
Even like Analog Africa has like done stuff from like kind of weird disco stuff, you know, on like found equipment and stuff from Cape Verde, and like there's so many amazing compilations, like regional compilations of like not punk music, but like of just music from a certain era or a certain time. Or
Yeah.
That's awesome, Jesse. I'm gonna put that on the list. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
It's like a triple gatefold.
Triple LP.
Wild.
wow.
So you can, like, use it as the Dungeon Master screen, or you can listen to everything.
Wow.
Wow. That's a great pick. Yeah,
Very cool.
very cool. Yeah, like I said, I remember you, like, you know, when you were living there, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
local.
seriously, yeah, trying to find local music or live music was just impossible. You know, there were bands at weddings. That was great, but you know, we went to karaoke, and there were these classic songs, and I recognized one, Lola, which I had, like, definitely heard a friend sing at karaoke at some night. So I think these are real. So it's really cool that they found them and they've actually put them out.
Wow. What a way to end! What a way to end the show. That's amazing. I'm glad like Shakin Street wasn't the last pick. Even though it's killer, but it's not as interesting. Not as interesting as Let me announce next week's show. Matthias Weeks is back. Matthias is watching, I think, Counter Records, Wrong War. Man, I almost like misread this because it's John Massell, not John Hassel. It's coming on next week.
John Massell.
Yes. Benny Hernandez is back. Second time round. It's going to be a great show. Man, it's November. Next Friday, it's November. Where does the time go? As Sandy Denny once sang, where does the time go?
Downstairs.
Seriously though, man, not to get too dark, but man, time is flying by. Wait till you get to my age. It's almost frightening. It's been a great show. We'll probably carry on chatting a little bit after the show. Tune in next week, Friday, November 1st, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. There might be some Polish punk on next week, so don't go away. There might be some Polish punk on next week. I've got three Polish punk records that I'm excited to talk about. That ain't one of them. Until next time, stay healthy and stay